breaks down acetylcholine. Okay, so it's the same picture. We can skip that. I put this in here to show you it's a good side-by-side comparison. So here's the effector organ, all the different organs, and then here's a sympathetic response, what happens when sympathetic nervous system is activated and what receptor it binds to, so what type of adrenergic receptor. You have alpha 1s and beta 1s and alpha 2s and beta 2s for the subcategories of adrenergic receptors. And then the parasympathetic response are all of these. So let's take a look at heart, okay? The ones that I want you to know for the exam are the heart and the digestive tract. So heart, the sympathetic nervous system, is that going to excite the heart or is it going to slow down the heart? Okay, so if you look at the sympathetic response, it's going to increase rate and force of contraction for the heart. What's the dominant receptor on that heart? It's going to be beta 1. You guys don't know this yet, but we'll talk about it. The heart has both alpha and beta adrenergic receptors, but it has primarily beta 1 adrenergic receptors. And those beta 1s preferentially bind to epinephrine. Alpha adrenergic receptors preferentially bind norepi, and beta adrenergic receptors preferentially bind epi. Beta 1s are on the heart, and then beta 2s are on the lungs. How do we remember that? You have one heart, so it's beta 1, and then you have two lungs, so it's beta 2. And actually, lungs are like 2 below that, if you want to take a look at that. I recommend downloading this chart and taking it with you to your professional program so that you have an idea of all these different subcategories. Because different drugs, when you get into pharmacology, this is going to be really important. Let's take a look at the digestive tract. Or sorry, let me go back to the heart. Parasympathetic. So the vagus nerve, what is the vagus nerve going to do for the heart? It's actually going to slow down the rate of the heart. Okay. Look at the digestive tract. What does sympathetic nervous system do for digestive tract? Is it going to excite it or is it going to slow it down? Good, it's actually going to slow it down. So sympathetic speeds up heart, sympathetic slows down digestion. If you're running for your life, you don't want to be digesting that Big Mac that you just ate, right? You want all of the blood and all of the power to go to the heart, the lungs, the eyes, the brain, and the blood vessels so that you can sleep. You don't want to be wasting energy digesting. But then when you're sleeping at night, what happens? So digestive tract kicks up, your parasympathetic nervous system dominates, and then your heart is going to slow down, okay? Take a look at some of these organs and tissues or effector organs don't have parasympathetic nervous system to them. So for example, your arterioles and veins, they have a sympathetic innervation, but they don't have para. Same with adrenal medulla, no parasympathetic, kidney, adipose, and lymphoid tissue. Okay, here's a little bit more specific. So your heart, this is your electrical conduction system, your sinoatrial node and atrioventricular node. When you activate the parasympathetic nervous system or the vagus nerve on the FA node and AB node, it's going to decrease heart rate and conduction velocity. So you're going to decrease heart rate and force of contraction, whereas sympathetic nervous system is going to activate or increase heart rate and increase force of contraction, and the dominant adrenergic receptor is going to be your beta 1s. Let's see digestive tract. So digestive tract, if you take a look at this one, the parasympathetic nervous system is going to get it excited. So it's going to increase motility, it's going to increase secretion, and it's going to relax those sphincters so that food and digested material moves through that digestive tract. Whereas sympathetic nervous system is going to decrease the motility, inhibit secretions, and contract those sphincters so that they stay shut. Okay. You can read the rest of it just to get you an idea of how what role the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system plays. Take a look at metabolism, since we just finished metabolism. The liver. So when you are excited or nervous or anxious or stressed out, your liver, the sympathetic nervous system, is actually going to stimulate glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis. So you're actually going to break down glycogen into glucose so that blood sugar goes up, and you're going to make glucose from fats and proteins as well when you're going through a fight or flight type of response. And then adipose tissue stimulates breaking down of adipocytes or of fat and fatty acids so that you can use it for fuel. Here is the picture that I drew for you guys on my little tablet. I know it's not great, so I apologize. But what I recommend is you guys drawing these out, 5 to 10 times. This is the somatic nervous system. So I broke it down. Let me walk you through it. The first nerve releases acetylcholine into the synapse. That's going to bind to, I abbreviated it as NCR, which stands for nicotinic cholinergic receptor. Acetylcholine will bind to that nicotinic cholinergic receptor and activate the second nerve. That second nerve is then going to release acetylcholine onto another nicotinic cholinergic receptor, and that's going to excite the skeletal muscle. For sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system, notice that it's the same as somatic for the first synapse. So for sympathetic nervous system, if you look at that one, notice how the first nerve releases acetylcholine. It's going to bind to nicotinic cholinergic receptors and excite the second nerve. Same thing with parasympathetic. So when we're talking about nerve to nerve communication, it's going to be acetylcholine binding to nicotinic cholinergic receptors and exciting that second nerve. That's not going to magically change on you. Where is it different then? It's different if you look at the top where the second nerve synapses with the organ. So for somatic nervous system, it's acetylcholine binding to nicotinic cholinergic receptors, again, to excite skeletal muscle. For sympathetic nervous system, it's norepi and epi binding to adrenergic receptors. We can put alpha and beta adrenergic receptors. When norepi and epi bind to adrenergic receptors on the heart, what does it do for heart? It's going to increase heart rate and force of contraction. When norepi and epi bind to your GI tract, it's going to slow it down. So think about that. If you are fleeing, right, or if you're stressed out, or if you're exercising, what have you, sympathetic nervous system is going to kick up. It's going to release more norepi and epi, and it's going to increase your heart rate and force of contraction. Whereas it's going to bind to adrenergic receptors on the GI tract and slow it down. Take a look at the parasympathetic nervous system. So acetylcholine to nicotinic cholinergic receptors excite the second nerve. Second nerve releases acetylcholine, and that acetylcholine is going to bind to MCR. Do you remember what MCR stands for? So it's muscarinic cholinergic receptors. So acetylcholine is going to bind to muscarinic cholinergic receptors on the heart and drop heart rate and force of contraction. So it's going to slow down the heart. Whereas acetylcholine binding to muscarinic cholinergic receptors on the smooth muscle is going to excite that smooth muscle. Okay, so what do you need to know for the exam for this portion? I want you to know the neurotransmitter and hormone released by the different nervous systems. So somatic, sympathetic, and parasympathetic. So you should know the neurotransmitters that are released for those guys, like how does nerve talk to nerve, and how does nerve talk to skeletal muscle, and how does nerve talk to heart and gastrointestinal tract. The receptor types that are found on those organs. So is it a nicotinic cholinergic receptor? Is it a muscarinic cholinergic receptor? Or is it a adrenergic receptor? And then what is the effect on the target organ? So again, we're just dealing with heart and gastrointestinal tract first. And then you can, we'll add a little bit more as we get into cardiovascular and then respiratory system. But I want you to understand these first. Thank you for joining me. I'll talk to you soon.